of looking at things, lots of new material. So thank you ever so much. It was great fun. It was really good fun. Okay, so this evening, what we're looking at is living outside your comfort zone. This is quite a topical area in terms of the many different things that we can have a look at as far as living outside of your comfort zone involves. What I've got in front of me is several questions. So what I'm going to do this evening is, and these are questions that you as members have passed on to me previous to this evening's session. So what I'm going to do is go through these questions and give you some very clear insight into how to live, most certainly outside of your comfort zone. Certainly in these changing times, we have no choice but to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I'm going to start with the questions, and then what I will do is move on to the live questions that obviously you've posted for this evening. Okay, so first area. According to the spiritual theory, 2012 is supposed to be a year of enlightenment. Why then has 2011 come in with great economic and political unrest across Europe, the Arab world and the US? Even healthy economies like Australia have seen horrid floods. All these things have seen people forced out of their comfortable lifestyles to face challenges and distress. Why is this happening? Why is it happening literally overnight? What are we meant to be learning as bystanders of these events? Certainly what we've got at the moment is a lot of change and a lot of things that are really very scary for people. Tremendously scary. Some of the things that we haven't seen in modern day history. But what it is reflective of is the energy changing from, let's say, the old world into the new world. And what that means is it gets very uncomfortable during that transition stage. What we're losing is our attachment to ways of doing things, to certain aspects of life, to what is comfortable, and learning to feel comfortable with things that are consistently changing. So feeling comfortable with flexibility. Things cannot stay rigid anymore. The energy will not, new energies coming in will not allow for things to remain rigid. And if you notice that anything and everything that is quite rigid in life is having to adjust, and enormous changes happening as a result, in terms of we're losing our attachments. So what you could call it, and this isn't particularly comfortable, you could call it the healing of the personality and the ego mind. You could call it the healing of looking at things in a very safety orientated way. And I know that's very uncomfortable for nurturer types, for instance, and the vast majority of people are nurturer types. In terms of what that means is nurturer types are uncomfortable with adjustments. They tend to find themselves having to respond to enforced change rather than choosing to change things in advance. If you look at it in terms of your own development, it's the pebbles, bricks and boulders analogy, which is during our own development as a sensitive, as developing our own psyche, so you could call that in terms of psychic ability. What we're looking at is, and certainly what developing your internal world does for you, is it helps you to notice the pebbles in life before they need to cascade into a brick, in terms of life throwing bricks at you, and then finally the most uncomfortable thing, which is a boulder. So what we're going through at the moment is adjustment, is the earth energy coming into its own balance. So where we've perhaps haven't noticed, or we've learnt to ignore the pebbles of life, we're being forced into beginning to seek adjustment earlier by having boulders that we have no choice but to acknowledge being forced into our path. And what we're also learning is connection. So throughout all these difficulties that are happening or have been happening, say across Europe, across Arab world, across North Africa, and even the these awful floods that have happened in Australia, and for instance the earthquake in New Zealand. These are things that we haven't been expecting, but they bring about essentially what they do on a long-term basis is bring about a feeling of solidarity and moving beyond separation. So you could call it the healing of the ego, in terms of we are no longer finding it easy to separate ourselves, to kind of live a life of, or if I'm all right, then the world's all right kind of thing. It's about things all having to come together, people having to experience a solidarity in having the courage to move things forward. And I think that's what the energy at the moment, 2011 energy, is reflecting. So as we move into 2012, you will see a lot more solidarity in people. You'll see a lot more togetherness. You'll see a lot more respect for each other. Not a lower tolerance in bad behaviours, but a desire to make things better, to make things different. And quite often when things are perfect, people don't seek change, they don't seek the adjustments, they just kind of switch off to it. So when things are a little bit challenging, we find it much easier to switch on to our own humanity, to the things that are right. And I know during some of those transitions it can be incredibly uncomfortable, but what it does do on a long-term basis is bring about an increase in our sense of own worth, on our sense of self-esteem, because we come back to the root of what's really quite important. Okay, I hope that makes sense. It's quite a strong question. So next question: how can you say that it's healthy for someone to